All right, all right. Good night, everybody. Welcome to Therapy Thursday, put on by Sisters for Sisters. We are here another Thursday. Woo, we've been pushing hard for the last couple Thursday. Um, I think we'll take what is next Thursday? Next Thursday the first. I don't know. Um, so we are now having a return, a return,
Yeah.
a
Woo.
return. Uh, Dr. Leslie T. Glover. Uh, and I'm so happy because what you don't know is if we had like this pre-show stuff, you could just get into what we were talking about prior. But that's not what we're here. We're here to kind of talk about definitely some things she got going on, and I definitely wanted to make sure that we were able to give her the support on the platform, and so you guys can enjoy some of what she has and some of the stuff she has coming soon. So we're going to talk all about it. We're gonna view it. We're gonna look into it. She's gonna dissect it, and then if we get some time later, well, I know people right now are probably going. So many antics are going on. Right, people are probably having a lot of anxiety, nervousness. There's some things going on based on what things are going in the world. And so we'll try to talk about a little bit of that at the end, but we really want to be able to celebrate our sister because she got two things going. She got the first thing that we're gonna, is coming up next week, but then she also has another thing that is coming out. And I think it came out in April. It was cleared in April, so we're going to talk about both of those. So let the team introduce themselves as normal, ladies first, and then Tyline will introduce himself, and then give the bio of our guest tonight, and then we'll get into the action.
All right. Good evening, Therapy Thursday. And this is one of my favorite nights of the weekend, definitely by far. I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but my favorite guest, Dr. Glover. This is always a conversation. I'm so excited about learning tonight. I feel like this is one of the one times where I'm quiet, but it's sinking in. And after you, I had so much power. I feel like I was even better. Was even better on the show after getting your knowledge and just your strength. So I'm super excited tonight, ready to hear what you have going on. Welcome everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Here. I second that. She's one of my favorite guests here on this program. I'm super excited. When I got the email this morning that she's coming back on our program, I was like, I had to cut a couple of things short. I was almost not going to make it today, but I'm so glad to be here because I couldn't wait to see you once again. Thank you so much for being here. We're with Leslie T. Grover, and she's a writer and an activist born in the Mississippi Delta. She writes from her Southern roots. Her novella, The Benefits of Eating White Folks, was published by Jaded Ibis Press in April of 2022. And she was a finalist in the African American Fiction category for American Book Fest Best Books Award. Her short stories have appeared in Waxing and Waning, Blackout Edition, Swing Magazine, and Owl Howl Press, the Take Back anthology, and she is managing editor for Push Black, a media organization dedicated to uplifting Black identity through Black history and storytelling. Leslie currently lives in Boston, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Let's welcome, give a warm round of applause to one of my faves, Leslie T. Grover, is in the house. Yes, 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 yes.
Hey.
So glad you're here. So glad that you're here. So tell us what's going on. I mean, you got some things that's hot.
Yes, first of all, thank you all for having me. It's always a pleasure. I feel like just kin folks and family, just every time I come around, I appreciate you so much. Coming up, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, with literary literation, Lit Lib, and
Mm,
Raising Others, I'll be teaching a workshop. Um, Letters from the Revolution, and it's going to focus on epistolary writing, and it's going to do historical fiction through epistolary writing. And epistolary writing uses letters, it uses diaries, it uses newspapers, and that type of thing to tell stories. And because I'm historical fiction, I'm not going to be using, our newest text. So it won't be about text. It won't be, about, I don't know, what do people do now? They StreamYard and they Twitch and they copy. But those concepts can certainly apply to those too if you're interested in that type of writing.
Mm.
Oh,
And when
fine.
did, and so when does this happen? When does this take place?
This is Saturday,
Mhm.
June the 8th, from 10 a.m. to noon
No, what's up?
Central Time, which would be 11 to 1 p.m. Eastern.
Mm. Okay, and it's about learning how to write historical fictions through. Okay, I'm sorry, I've never heard this word before.
Epistolary.
I'm a product of the New York City educational system. What is epistolary writing?
Epistolary writing, an epistle is a letter.
Mm. Okay.
So all those biblical people out there, when they read like the
Oh.
Bible, they're like an epistle from James to Paul. It's basically a letter. So epistolary writing, you're familiar with it because think about The Color Purple. That's an epistolary book.
Oh, dear God.
Yep, yep.
Oh, see, well, yeah, I've never read those. But anyway, okay. So, Letters for Revolution, right? You wrote it as a historical fiction writing course, right?
Yeah.
Where true historical stories of women who resisted oppression are combined with epistolary writing techniques. So, okay, can you give us an example of what that looks like, or or what it reads like?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it could read like The Color Purple. If you ever, starts off with like "Dear God" or where Celie is writing to
To
God.
God. Oh, okay.
It could be it could even be. Gosh, I'm just trying to think of all Black examples. That's why I'm pausing.
Oh.
It could be that I recently did a short story that did really well. It's called Bomb in Gilead. It should be available soon, but I don't even know when. All I can say is soon. They haven't given me a release date, but it's a story where a woman is writing a letter to her sister
Mhm.
about a woman that's been lynched in their hometown. And the lady writing the letter, is the wife of the funeral director. And she's
Mhm.
writing about them having to go get the body and what happened and the movement that happens in that rural town as a result of this woman being lynched by people in the town.
Mhm.
So it's telling things through letters, diaries, newspaper clippings.
Mhm. So okay, so these are actual. Sorry about that. So these are actual letters, or they come from people's imagination, or is it a combination of both?
It can be a combination of both.
Okay.
And what makes it historical, for instance, is you could pin it to an event that's happening. What we're going to do in the workshop is we're going to use the examples of three Black women from history and what they did in their liberation. And we're going to start off with the part of their story they're going to write to a prompt. It might be a letter, it might be, um, you know, a diary entry, um, it might be a newspaper ad or something like that. And then we'll
Hmm.
share out. And then we're going to
Hmm.
go back and you're going to hear the rest of the true story that actually happened
Hmm.
with that woman during that time. And let me say that we as Black women have some extraordinary things that we have done in the name of revolution. And these are
Hmm.
the ones that not many people know about.
Hmm.
Wow.
Oh, I can't wait. Hmm.
So who's your targeted audience? Do you have a targeted audience? Is there an age? Is there, a group? Would you prefer women, men? I mean, just who would this who do you look for when you're offering these classes?
Well, all are welcome.
Okay.
Um, in my heart, I really want to see. I would like for our community, Black men and Black women, who might want to know more about history or who might want to know more about using art to do their storytelling or just writing our Black experiences in a new way. I would love to see that. I would love to see some teenagers come through there who enjoy creative writing. And it's just because our stories are so powerful, especially the ones we don't know about. And I think that's a real opportunity to lean into these instances of of power and beauty and story that could really just impact us all.
Mm,
Excuse me.
okay. Can you give us a sample, a taste of one? Just something real brief. Give us a, kind of pull us in or pull folks in who are not familiar with this style and this way of writing.
I'll give you an example. It
Okay.
won't be one of the ones I use, but
Okay.
I am fascinated. I think everybody has. I don't know if everybody's heard this or not. Let me redo that one. But so there's a woman who during enslavement, she's a Black abolitionist. During this, she worked for a funeral home, and during enslavement, when she was sneaking people away to freedom, she would pack them into coffins, and they would
Mm,
cross the state lines, and they would cross over into cities and find freedom that way. So imagine if you were her, and you know, what do you tell people as you're packing them into their coffin? How do you lean into the fears they must be having or the ridiculousness of this not being able to work? And think about the fact that when most Black people ran, when they escaped. I know we have the Underground Railroad, and we think of people running north, and we think about people running south sometimes to Mexico, but most Black people just went to the largest urban area that they were near. So it wasn't necessarily that they ran north, and in fact most Black people stayed in the south and just went to an urban area, so they were hiding in plain sight. So how would
mm,
you feel as a person who was doing that? What letter would you write to your family anonymously so that they would know it was you without telling them it was you? So that if the letter were intercepted, what would a diary entry look like with your first night of freedom?
mm,
And if the war had come and gone and you still hadn't found your family member, what type of ad might you put in the newspaper looking for them and trying to find them? Which a lot of Black people did, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
So what would those writings look like? How could you imagine yourself in that position? You know, um,
mhm,
you're asked to think about that. Or if you have an ancestor that did that, what letter would you write as an ancestor to your descendants about your experiences and what they needed to know about liberation?
mm.
This is interesting, and it actually reminds me of
You went
Oh,
out.
I don't know. My phone just went out really quickly. Sorry, y'all. I'm on my phone tonight. It reminds me, Dr. Ron, help me, but it reminds me of therapeutic chair, the 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 therapy
Oh yeah,
modality. Um,
right, right.
and so I
The empty chair, the
I
empty chair,
the
the
empty
empty chair.
chair. I'm sorry, the empty chair.
See,
Um, when you're actually, presenting, there's nobody there that you're talking to, but the chair represents the person who you want to actually talk to, or you want to actually say the words to. And you talk about the color purple. One of the benefits of living in a small town is that when the color purple came out, I was able to um, actually approach one of the preachers in town who owns the local movie theater. And I wanted to present a series of kind of group therapy sessions dissecting the color purple. I know that we, as a culture, we've taken it and we've actually kind of made some parts of it jokes that, make us feel uncomfortable. But I really wanted us to open up some of those hard conversations about relationships. And I think that you have actually helped me um, I always like to tell people I like to do Black therapy, which is a little bit different. Black people don't really like to say things out loud in groups um, that are not like specific groups, in my opinion. But I think that this could actually help in that kind of therapeutic modality or that therapeutic setting with just the letters that are being written. So even if we are, even if I'm still thinking, because I am still thinking about actually doing that series, I want to talk about relationships or the relationships that were held. I want to watch the movie and I want us to really sit down and dissect it. But I feel like this is so important in our culture to be able to write to the people in the past, write to the present, write about it, because we don't really often get to express what it is that we want to say, or we sometimes we don't even have the words, but being able to just write that press release or write it in however you would write it. I think this could contribute heavily to therapy, or this is therapeutic, very therapeutic.
Yeah, because one of the beautiful things about letters in particular, at least in creative writing, is like you're not confined with dialogue. You can put in a letter whatever you're thinking in a letter, the same as you can in a diary. And I just think about in my own life, there have been things that have been put in letters that I don't think that we could say today. We've kind of lost that. We text everything now, or we can email it. But there's something about, I don't know, I'm kind of aging myself, but like back in the day, if you like somebody or they liked you, even as like a little kid, I like you, do you like me? Yes, no, maybe, circle one. You might not necessarily be able to go up to that person and tell them that you have a crush on them, but you could write it down and you could give a letter to your friend and your friend could give it to them. And they could pass it back to you, so whether you got accepted or rejected or you're still in limbo about whether or not they liked you, it was something about the process of putting yourself out there
Mm-hmm.
that that letter helped you do. It was almost like a rite of passage. And like if you got the yes letter back, you could go up to the person, use it like, I got your letter, start talking. If you got the no, you could rip it up and throw it away and pretend like it never happened.
Right.
There's no timestamp there. So I don't know, there's something about letters and storytelling that, especially for a historical fiction writer too, your characters can say things in letters that are so intimate and that are so personal that if they had said it aloud in dialogue, or if you had said it in a personal essay, or if it had been written as part of a history story or even a regular news story that we read, it may not have been received as well.
Yeah, which is why Celie wrote to God. There was
Exactly.
nobody else for her to write to. Nobody else cared.
Yeah.
So, dear God, she wrote all of her whole life was a written letter, which is amazing to me. This is good.
Yeah. And I didn't know anything about the empty chair thing, but I think that that's so powerful
Yeah,
because you could fill that chair with words. A
Mm.
letter could be the exact same thing. And I'm thinking about this horrible case in history, the Diane Downs. I don't know if y'all remember this white lady that
The
killed
kids, yeah.
Her kids, the three
The step
boys,
kids, yeah.
and blame the black
Or
man.
fourth the kid, yeah.
Yeah.
that was Susan Smith. She was before Susan Smith.
Okay, okay,
Mm.
okay.
This was in the 80s. She was like a mail carrier or something, and she was in love with this man. She having an affair with him,
Oh, I do remember her. Yeah.
and she took her kids out on the road, and she
Mm-hmm.
three of them and drove as slowly as she could to the hospital. But I think one ended up dying, one ended up being paralyzed from the waist down. But there was one who lived. And when they were getting the story from the surviving child, they were asked, but the child wouldn't speak. Also, the child had a stroke a little bit before that. But even when the child could speak, no, she couldn't say that it was my mother who did this. So her therapist asked her to write a letter and to write down the name of the person who had shot them. And they said, "Well, you write the letter down, but we're going to put it in the fireplace or tear it up. But when you're ready to show me who did it, then you can just hand the letter to me." And that was how they called Diane Downs, because the letter said, Mom shot us. And the rest is history. Diane Downs is still in prison now, still writing letters to people, by the way. She if you ever have the misfortune of writing her a letter or coming into contact with someone that writes her a letter, they're just pages and pages of uh, I don't know the word, dementia and and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Foolishness.
yeah,
Mm.
foolishness,
Foolish.
monkey foolishness. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Mental
some
illness.
of it,
Mental illness.
it's probably, when they think about what that is, and I think a lot of it is it is foolishness to us,
Right.
but in instance that is the perception of a lot of her unconscious that she wants to express. And this is really good when you're talking about this and again how this interrelates. People like, you be bringing people on. This lady come on and talk about books. How is it gonna relate to therapy, right? And I think that people forget that therapy is about communication. The
Mm-hmm.
major part of that is about the communication. So if you can talk, if you can read, if you can write, you can do those type of things, you will be able to communicate in a different way and be able to use and identify certain things. So an example, I think about the lady you're describing and thinking that all the time that she's writing, there's something that she is trying to say to you, but whatever else is going on in her mind, it is in her unconscious, not her conscious. Our conscious, when we're in our conscious, everything is controlled by society, social construction, guilt, uh, fear, responsibility. But when we're in our unconscious, that's why our dreams are wild, because our dreams happen in our unconscious, and in our unconscious, anything can be going on. And if you have lost your consciousness to your unconsciousness, that's where we start to see a lot of people be really in a state that listen, you don't want to have that conversation with them. You don't, you want to, and what happens is people will say, oh, they're crazy, they're this and that, but they don't realize that the more that you feed that, you don't let them ever come back to their conscious self. They
Mm-hmm.
are only in their unconscious self. And so anything that's going on begins in that unconscious. I mean, sometimes people would say that many of us in the trauma that we have faced here in America, uh, and every day a lot of us live in our unconscious, not in our conscious. That's why we can't focus and narrow down to why certain things are important, why we shouldn't do this, why we shouldn't do that, why, we can't fathom the idea that, oh, I'll kill as many people that look like me, but I'll think twice before I do something to somebody who don't look like me. That's an
Mm.
unconscious, not a conscious. That's why people say, are you conscious? That whole conscious culture or what have
Mhm, mhm. I'd like to ask Dr. Grover about how did she come to this concept, this this idea. I mean, how because this is very unique, and I love it. But how did it just wake up one day and say this is the approach to this writing, this concept that I'm going to have, where people can write these kinds of letters to um, about revolution from this particular time.
Um, Almost. It actually kind of did. I was reading. this book, um, something about bloody brooding, blood and beauty, blood and brooding. But
Oh.
it was about Black enslaved women who had actually, well, really the theme of the book was about Black feminist notions of justice and what it means. And it was looking at stories of enslaved women who had tried to poison or kill their captors.
Mm-hmm.
And the book was making the point that it wasn't necessarily that when this was happening, that they were looking to prove a point. Some of them got, some of them got killed for, some of them didn't. None of them seemed to care, but it was like when you look at what that type of justice meant, bringing somebody to death was a last resort in trying to get justice and trying to get freedom. And I was reading this story about this young girl, and you may have heard of this book. It's actually a testimony. It's called Celia, a Slave. They mentioned her, but she had been purchased by this man, and he was doing all types of things to her. He was abusing her in every way possible, mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually. And she ended up killing him and throwing him in the fireplace. And like nobody could find him, and they were trying to find out, well, like what happened? What happened? But when you think about what she was experiencing, I thought she never really got a chance to say what was happening. So if she were sitting in a jail cell, or if she was getting ready to testify, what would that testimony look like? How would she be able to write that? Something very similar happened with a case in Virginia where this woman was poisoning her captor and his family, just poisoning them, chilling every day, putting a little arsenic in food or whatever. And it just made me think, what would those voices be like? And during the time, they weren't painted as crazy. That nobody thought it was crazy. It's weird because they talk about drapetomania, Black people wanting to escape, and they gave that, the mental illness label. But nobody thought it was crazy with them poisoning. They thought that this was this act of evil, um, rather than this act of a of being traumatized, which is so. It just shows you how backwards that whiteness can be when thinking about spiritual healing. But yeah, that's kind of where it came from,
Wow.
and and then just thinking about in my own life, all the times
Mm-hmm.
that I've been able to put things into diaries and into letters that I wasn't able to say aloud. And I remember when I was 15, my mom found my journal, because I used to keep a journal and I would write it every day. And I put things in the journal, just things I was facing, things I was going through that I didn't think could talk to my mom or my dad about. But my mom found my journal and she read it, and she wrote me a letter in the journal. And part of me was mortified because she'd read it, and I felt like, wow, she invaded my privacy. But the
Mm-hmm.
other part of me was like, well, you did leave it in the dining room, whether you forgot about it or not. So she would do it. It's her house. But the beautiful thing was the letter that she wrote me in
Mm-hmm.
that journal, letting me know that I could talk to her, letting me know that I was loved, letting me know that she knows that it was wrong of her to read my journal, but that she wanted that connection with me and she wanted us to be able to talk and learn each other more. Um, I burned my journal after that, but I still have a beautiful relationship with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it was in those letters, being able to express the things we did,
Mm-hmm.
that's powerful. It changed our entire family dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Did you keep the letter? Although you burnt your journal, did you keep the letter she wrote to you, or you burnt that as well?
I burnt that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, and not out of anger, but just
Right.
because I felt like that was sacred and I didn't want anyone else to know. I felt like that's something sacred between me and my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of burned it, just like in a little moment of like, after like praying and then just being like, these words no longer apply. I can talk to my mom. So burning the journal for a new beginning and burning that letter so
Mhm.
nobody would see her work. Because I don't know who I thought was gonna find it. My brother was too young to read at the time, and my dad. I mean, she tells my dad everything anyway. I don't guess she
Mhm.
told him that, but I don't know. It was this fear of like nobody being able to find that
Mhm.
response that my mom had to me. So I
Mhm.
did, yeah.
Do you remember the letter almost verbatim, or just the overall view? You know, the main ideas.
That letter was almost verbatim. I can tell you the
Mm-hmm.
words. I mean, I can tell. I mean, I'm not ashamed of it, but it was
Mm-hmm.
just like, "Dear Leslie, I read through this. I didn't mean to. I picked it up thinking it was something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I see your words, and I just want you to know that I love you, and that I'm here for you, and that I'm your mother. I gave birth to you, and you are precious to me and beloved by me. Don't let life kill you. Don't ever let the world make you feel like you're not good enough to be here. I know things happen in our lives, but you'll see that they're temporary. I love you very much, and whenever you're ready to talk to me, I'm here. Love, your mother."
Wow.
That's so beautiful. I'm almost gonna cry, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm pushing it back.
Don't cry, Cylon. Don't cry.
That's so beautiful.
I'm gonna toughen it up. I'm gonna
Mhm.
toughen you up a little bit. So, going back to that, that is beautiful. It makes me want to write my daughter a letter. Actually, she's coming. She's coming here next week. And when you were talking, I was thinking, I'm going to write her a letter. Like I'm going to give this letter to her as soon as she gets off the plane. So
Yeah,
on our hour something drive, I want her to know my intent on what I plan, how I plan to serve her or be with her in our time. So I
yeah,
think I'm going to do that. Um, but we were talking about the prisoner, and I know that I keep getting on Ron about watching this certain Netflix show, Unlocked,
yeah,
and I know that it's a lot of things in our culture becomes a joke. Like even the prisoners writing these letters, but they're at their most vulnerable time when they're writing these letters. And I guess I'm wondering, would you ever consider doing any, what is it called, Tylon? For work?
Someone will say that again?
What is it called? What's the writing style called?
You talking about the what is the epistor? What is it?
I keep thinking Episcopalian, uh,
Yeah, epistatory.
epistatory. Have
Yeah,
Epistle.
you ever,
I
have
never
you,
heard that word before. I'm getting an education, so
I think
I,
I heard you say it the last time you were on. And that was the first time that I had actually heard it as well, Tylon. But have you ever considered doing any work with persons with mental illness or that are incarcerated? And if you have, um, tell me, if you can, tell me a little bit about it. But even if you would consider it.
Oh, absolutely. I've actually done a little bit of epistolary work with children who were under the care of the state, whether that was through the foster care system or those who were justice involved, and women uh, who used drugs and alcohol and who had been justice involved as a result of the use of drugs and alcohol. Um, so with the kids, um, I, they didn't write letters per se. They could write letters, but I had them do comic strips. Um, just because they were like, "Oh, it's writing a letter, writing an essay. Feels like I'm telling a story." I'm like, "Well, draw a picture. You can draw a picture. You can doodle it out. You can make it in symbols. And, the kids are in this in that system, at least here, like they're always being asked to tell their stories. They have to tell what happened to them over and over and over and over again. I didn't want to like traumatize them. very
There's a
supportive.
little noise. I don't know if you guys can hear it. It's hard for me to hear. It's a noise, like a fan.
I don't I don't hear it.
It's not there anymore. But while you were talking, I didn't want that those ideas to get lost. But
Oh,
it's fine now. Mhm.
oh, thank you. So I told them they could draw it, they could write it out, but I didn't want them to tell their story. I said, imagine that you're writing a letter to someone who's experienced what you've experienced and they're scared. Write them a letter telling them about a time that you had to be brave. And some of them wrote letters, some of them doodled the letters, some of them drew pictures, and they really enjoyed that. And they got to talk about a time they were brave. Oh, I hear it now.
Maybe it's mine. I'm gonna go back off my mic. I don't know why it would be mine.
Um, and then with the women, uh, let me see, make sure,
It's still happening.
make sure it's not me. Can y'all hear me? Yeah.
I can
Um,
hear you.
and then with the women, I just asked them to tell about a time. You know, women in the system, and they just as involved, and they get in these group sessions, and everybody tells them they have to be thankful for everything, and people are always asking them to do things about gratitude. And so I said, well, I want y'all to tell me about something that you're not grateful for. Write it in a letter, write in a poem. And they were like, what? I said, something you're not grateful for. I said, so y'all gonna sit here now? Y'all ask me to come as I am. You will feel awful if I lied to you. So now you gonna lie to me and pretend like you grateful? I said, so you mean tell me you grateful for everything in this room we got now? Y'all grateful for everything down to the food. You grateful? I said, some of y'all don't even eat seafood and they got seafood in there. You grateful? And they were like, no, I'm actually not grateful. So I said, okay, so here's what you're going to do. So I put them in pairs first, and I had them spend a minute listening to one another talk about the things they were not grateful for and did not appreciate. Then they were able to do the writing exercise because it was a little weird for them to um to be able to do it, but they ended up writing letters to the system itself telling them that they did not thank the system for mistreating them, for labeling them, for, labeling them addicts, for which I'm sorry to use that word. I do not like that word, but that is quoting from a letter. I try really hard not to use that word because, particularly when it comes to Black women who use drugs and alcohol and who get caught up in those types of things, I do not like to use that word. Um, but they wrote letters and just then they were invited. When I do these exercises, I don't ever ask, I invite them to share, and then it's up to them whether or not they want to accept the invitation. So there's no pressure, but some of the things that you hear in letters, especially from people who are marginalized and who usually don't get to do anything except talk about their trauma and tell you what they're grateful for, it was so beautiful. And I am an OG, so like I don't cry in public. But honey, when I tell you that your girl was shoulder weeping, it was it was a beautiful experience. So those are the two biggest experiences that I have had with epistolary work.
Important. Thank you for sharing your craft in that way. I think it's super important. Well, for one, the word that comes to mind is victim, especially after Tylon so beautifully ended our conversation on last week when we spoke about drug and alcohol addiction and how it's just kind of pumped into our community. I think the word that comes to mind for me is victim instead of addict, because we know that these people are victims of this crime that was put upon us. Um, but also just the thought that you put into this. It just seems effortless when you speak about it. But I know that you've put thought into it. And it's so important for people to not always have to show that gratitude and to have like a safe space to say, I don't like this shit. Like, I don't even like this room I'm in. I don't even like you as a presenter without being, ostracized or in some kind of way made to feel like, they're bad for not being happy to have a chance to sit here and be an addict with you. Now, I'm not happy about any of this, you know, but it's like it goes back to even you just kind of taking letter writing and turning it upside down. Like, because when you think about letter writing, I think about, do y'all remember that movie Life? When the guy never, he didn't even want, it was only one person who could read, Eddie Murphy could read, and they would take the letter around and it was like, you want me to read it? And they like, nope, because they had given all of like the bad things. But that was like the first time I saw something like that was in the movie Life. Because most of the time you kind of associate letters with like good news being delivered or things like that. So to even just kind of turn that upside down and to know your audience is just so skilled and so crafty. I mean, I think when you're blessed with a gift, you're just blessed with that gift. And then it keeps on
Mhm.
blessing other people.
And that's why I keep asking you about your process because I'm actually blown away. I'm a creative. I just had a film entered into another festival and I won for best production for a film called Dry Bones. And my approach towards filmmaking is always trying to find an artistic way to bring the visual language of a narrative, to people's way. So and I struggle, and it seems almost like it's just so natural and it just flows. Even the idea, like I would have never probably thought to say, "What are you not grateful for?" I mean, so I'm curious about what your inspirations are. What do you draw from to come up with this concept? And another question: did you come up with this epistolary writing technique, or was that something that existed already?
Oh, this writing technique has been around for
Mm-hmm.
ages. But it's something that it's just something that I saw the power in, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt the power myself, and was like, we can do something with this. We can tell
Mm-hmm.
stories with this. And I think for Black people in particular, um, we get so much power from our stories. Our stories have kept us alive, and we carry our ancestors' stories with us. Like, just whether it's our physicality, our mannerisms, the way we see the world, all of that is, if you think about it, those are really our ancestors' stories being brought forward. And I just think about how we use letters to empower ourselves. Like, it's a project called Last Scene, and it was like, by this time we were teaching each other to read in churches, those of us who couldn't, and we were putting ads in newspapers, Black
Mm-hmm.
newspapers, and they were reading them in church to help you find your people. That matter of fact, I grew up, Mississippi Delta, Black Baptist, Black Missionary Baptist, but the remarks part of every Black church service,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to share community news, to be able to do that. Not a lot of people think about, just think about what, like, I know I used to, like, we just had a 17-hour sermon. Who needs to make remarks? It was a remarks part that strengthened our oral history in our community, because not everybody in the community could read. But if you got up with remarks and you had visitors, or you had people looking for people, or you had visitors, or you had that was the opportunity to know who was from where and your connections, or who had something to say that would help you.
Mm-hmm.
It's things like that. And think I think where I draw my inspiration from, what I, my problem is, the reason that I consider myself so tough and can be so tough is because I'm really not so tough. And I'm always, I cannot stand to see people, so I can't take it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like to see anybody suffer. I don't like to see animals suffer. I don't like to see people suffer.
Mm-hmm.
My plant had a leaf fall out off of it, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I said, oh well, you lost a leaf and all of these weird things. But there's something in thinking about what it would be like to be in somebody's spot, knowing you as a person that you are.
Mhm.
What would you want to hear? What would make you whole? What would restore you? I think about those things. Or I think about we were doing something in a community program and there were children there and people were able, they were asked to write down their thoughts and they wanted the children to participate. So they were like, oh, come help us choose stuff. So I put the children's stuff first because it's intergenerational and they're there and they've been listening to adults talk all night long. How cool
Mhm.
would it be if you were 19 years old and somebody read what you had written out in front of everything, to bring them into community too?
Mhm.
I think, I think a lot of it just comes from empathy, finding empathy, finding connection, and just really letting your imagination run wild. Like, what would it be like if that question? What would it be like if, or
Mhm.
how I would feel, or wonder what it would look like if? It's something about if that
Mhm.
allows us to go places and think of things that we may never have considered before.
Mm. Mm. And so how do you maintain this consistent voice for each character throughout the letters of these sort of like diary entries, if you will?
One thing is thinking about people in my life, like assigning them to
Mhm.
people with personalities that are similar to them.
Mhm.
So like Balm and Gilead, that short story was me listening to my mom and her friends talk on the phone.
Mhm.
They would be talking about business. They wouldn't necessarily be gossiping, but they would be like sharing a little bit of hot tea. And it's
Mhm.
like the meter of the way, girl, they say when they went up there, wasn't nobody up there but the husband. Like, looked like he poisoned, if you ask me. Like
Mhm.
the flow and the way that we talk when
Mhm.
we're alone in our blackness and there's no code switching.
Mm. Yeah,
How would
right.
you how are you talking to your closest friends? What 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 tone do you use? What words do you use? What do you
Mm.
talk about? That type of thing. And then when you're thinking about, that's one voice, but thinking about how do they respond? You know,
Mm.
how,
Mhm.
you know, how
Mhm.
would they respond? I have a dear, dear friend, and we our joke with each other is, girl, what was said? And we use it out of context all the time. But
Mhm.
you just know, like when we say, girl, what was said, that somebody in the room is nosy. So that means
Mhm.
don't
Mhm.
don't go there.
Mhm.
Don't say too much, you know. And it's like those types of things.
Mhm.
And then some of it is just remembering who are people in your life that you remember. Maybe you
Mhm.
only met them one time. Maybe you only
Mhm.
noticed them one time and how they carried themselves.
Mhm.
What would it be like if you could have a conversation with them?
Mhm.
Wonder what it would feel like if they wrote you a letter. You know,
Right. Right. Well, like when yeah, as a filmmaker, and I kind of, I try to draw correlations between, writing, because writing is the centerpiece of a lot of my work, in filmmaking. So I think in terms of sequence and timing, so and pacing. So how do you decide the sequence, the pacing, the timing of the letters or entries to ensure sort of a coherent narrative?
um, a lot of times it's just the natural way that we as Black folks communicate with each other.
And it's
Um,
so different, right?
yeah, it's different, but it's also the way that we like listening to the old uncles talk. Like, think about the way they greet each other. Oh,
Hmm.
what's happening with you, doctor? Oh man, I can't call it. Same old soup, just reheated. Look like you got it to me. Like
Hmm.
that. Boom, 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 boom.
Hmm.
Same old soup, just reheated. Look like you got it
Hmm.
to me. Like those beats that that flow the almost musical way that we chit chat with one another, or play the dozens,
Mm-hmm.
or even when we pause for laughter, there's a meter and a flow and an energy to that. And so I just do that. It
Mm-hmm.
just comes out naturally the way we laugh. If I call my girl right now and be like,
Mm-hmm.
"Girl, what was said?" It's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
something else, and we both gonna bust out laughing like it's been the funniest thing that anybody ever spoke.
Wow. I mean, that's super creative, and I just can't imagine. I mean, I could try to imagine because I have a pretty good imagination, but how you transform. This is a good question. Like, how do you handle exposition and background and information of a time that you haven't personally experienced? Like, where do you go? Like I'm writing this piece about something that happens a long time ago, in this particular 16th century period, and you're trying to write about you draw from some things that you do know, but how do you deal with the background information and this epistolary kind of I hope I'm saying it right. I hope I'm not chopping up the word, but that style of writing, to make your characters more robust, or the story itself, the narrative more robust.
Well, you have to do your research.
Oh, so it is some research. I thought, okay.
It's a lot of
Hmm.
research.
Hmm.
Like for instance, Bomb and Gilead was set in the Mississippi Delta in the 1930s and 40s. And when you're talking about funeral homes and care of the bodies, people were laid out on cooling boards. And if you didn't have a cooling board, you were laid out in the back part of the house, in the coolest part of the house, or in the back part of the house. You have to think about those things. Images help me a lot,
Hmm.
because you can think about images. But
Hmm.
then sometimes after you do that extensive research, there are questions that sometimes you have to stop to ask yourself and think, well, wow. So for instance, in this story, like when someone was lynched,
Hmm.
and how did they prepare the body? What would a black mortician have used to repair someone's face? Or what would a poor rural community, what would the resources for that type of mortician have looked like?
Hmm.
you know you have to think about those questions,
Hmm.
or even think there. In my book that's coming out, Root Bound, is
Hmm.
in the 1950s,
Hmm.
late 40s, 50s. um, but it's during the time when black people were starting to use heroin, at the time, and it wasn't considered an addictive substance, and there were ways that you could use heroin, ways that you could do these things, but set within historical context. You have to think, well, what was the context then? What resources were available? What would it have looked like? So you can read sometimes firsthand accounts,
Hmm.
again, looking at pictures, going through archives, like
Hmm.
Narco, the narcotics farm, that
Hmm.
was set up by the government, makes an appearance there. And even though there weren't necessarily black people there, white passing black people could have been there. So
Hmm.
what did it look like? How would a place like that have smelled? Who would have been there? So you had the thing about historical fiction is that you have to do your research,
Hmm.
because inevitably somebody's going to pick up your book and be like, oh, no, 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 you talked about them using an ice cream, a buttermilk churner in the 1600s, but that didn't
Hmm.
come to 1704. So
Hmm.
you know
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
so
Well, this is Therapy Thursday. How do you decompress from that? I mean, the fact that you have to go back and, you know, imagine and probably do some level of research, of course, but also, I always say our minds can create more horror than we could probably ever see, right? And so, when you're thinking about, okay, I'm in this place, I have a body that's probably burnt and lynched. I have a body, an eye is out. Like, when you have these graphic and painful and disturbing images again, how do you, as a writer, come off of that? Because I know I have to sometimes take a week off of projects and watch cartoons.
yeah. it's bad. It's coming off of it. It's realizing
Mhm,
that joy also existed
mhm,
in those moments. Is ways to find joy. But you know
mhm,
what? It's also listening to the radio to 90s rap and R&B and dancing in front of the mirror. It's watching dumb stuff on YouTube that makes absolutely no sense. Shout out to my son for introducing me to this character called like Mr. Salad Fingers or something.
that
It's
sounds.
it's just so weird. It's that type of thing.
Mhm,
Um it's really digging into the things that you're interested about and letting your curiosity take over with a good story that you like to read. But yeah, you I have to get a mental break because yeah, we have lots of moments of joy in our history and we have created that with our singing and dancing and resistance and all of these things. But to your point, there are some very painful parts.
mhm.
Yeah, and then some of it is just allowing myself to feel what I feel about it and saying it, like, I'm mad as hell that that happened.
Well, I might do like Charles Barron. He's a councilman in our area. He got into a lot of trouble for saying he wanted to smack white people as part of his mental health. He said this publicly. And so, you know, kind of negotiating some of that transference of the work that you do in terms of all the research and the kind of very painful stories that we in some way relive, and I think to some extent you might agree even live in our DNA, right? Part of it, because but dealing with that, would you agree that sometimes we're always like negotiating because we're always in this state of, I don't know, James Baldwin said, if you don't find a black man that's angry, I'll show you a man who's in deep need of psychological help.
Mhm.
So it's like, are we always really angry? And that's why we like to dance and we love comedy and all these other kind of things, because we've never been debriefed from all this trauma.
Yeah, I mean, how could we not be in a constant state of rage? You know,
Mm,
and
mm,
I think people have different ways of dealing with it.
mm,
That's why you have some people who have just completely given up and they're just like, I'm gonna be a water carrier for white people. Whatever white people want me to do, I'm a lick, I'm a butt kiss, I'm a brown nose, I'm gonna be the new boy and the step and fetch it for these
mm,
white people because they got the power and
mm,
I don't have to relive my painful past. You
mm,
I know they don't respect me, but I don't respect myself, and at least they cut me a check. You know,
mm, mm,
I
mm,
think that's a lot of the psychology behind the Uncle Ruckuses.
mm. I
You know,
know a few.
mhm, yeah, I think that, and I think too that some of us, I think we, but to your point, far as I know, in all of my historical research, only except for a few years through the Freedmen's Hospital that we actually get free health care for our woes. But mental health was not included in that package. And once we turned it over to
Mm,
the states' rights, they quickly ended that. So we didn't get help for a lot of that. And
mm,
we need to be able to tap into the joy that we also carry because we carry the joy in our DNA too.
mm,
It's just finding ways to tap into it, and that's why writing for me and really honoring how we move and how we talk to one another and how we're in fellowship with one another. That's why that's so important to my work.
mm. Yeah. Have you
So let me
experimented? Oh, okay.
so let me do this, and I want to go through these. I want to share these few things, Leslie, and since make sure we get full, so people can understand what you've been working on and the things you got going on. I'm gonna now. I was seeing how it worked, and that's just I see how it works. I'm gonna pull up a couple pictures and things
Mm-hmm.
just for us to be able to look at what you've been working on and for you to give a little detail about some of it. Now, this is the collage from the days.
Mm-hmm.
This is the collage from for the day's show. And it has a lot of the things that you've been working on, a lot of different things. Has your beautiful picture on there three times, that serious look. And I said, well, let me see what happens. So let me go and let me pull up the other pictures. Uh,
I'm back. Hello, what did I miss? It's quiet.
We just, I'm just showing the,
Oh, the collage.
yeah, I'm just showing the collage, and then I'm gonna go and try to show the other pictures that are there in
Hmm.
and I
Well, while
guess
you're
the
doing
first.
that, okay.
Mhm. Go ahead, tell them while I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, just while you're doing that, I just want to ask, one more question because I really don't have that much time. I got, I have another show after this. That's why I'm always popping off early. I think Ron and I got to talk about maybe moving the time so I can have the full effect of the therapy Thursdays or something like that. Something's got to give because I just love his guests and I just love the conversations and I just love Dr. Grover. What do you hope readers take away from your work, particularly in terms of this particular structure of writing? So people who go to the workshop, what could they expect, and what do you want them to take away from it?
Well, first of all, I want them to come bringing themselves um, and all of their blackness to this workshop. And if they're not black, whomever you are, bring all of that. I want them to walk away understanding that we carry so many beautiful stories inside of us. Um, the the ability to lean into our creativity and to use it in a way that empowers us and empowers those around us is a gift. And so even if you only walk away and you decide to write letters to yourself, that's something that I used to do when I was younger. I would go and I would send people thought I was so weird. Like I would send postcards to myself. I would go, I don't care where it was. If it was a city I had never been to or another country, I would send myself a postcard. Or if they didn't have postcards, I would post something to myself. And I would post the things to myself that encouraged me to keep doing some of the things I wanted to do. I even did like this. There used to be a project called the Future Project. Where you
Mhm.
could write a letter to yourself and then they mail it to you. And I did that back in the day. And I remember I wrote a letter to myself that by the time you get this letter, you're going to be a best-selling author and you're going to be traveling the world. And I'm gonna get there. I'm writing. I'm loving what I'm doing, and I'm definitely better travel than I was, and I was when I was 17. So just realizing that you can write letters to yourself, you can write letters to your future descendants. Um,
Mhm.
I want them to walk away, and I want them to walk away with a newfound respect for paying attention to the things around us
Mhm.
from your lived experience.
Mhm.
Like you don't have to be a policy pundit, but realize that the way that you're experiencing, like this guilty verdict with y'all's cousin Trump, that the way
Yeah,
that,
yeah, the one that's only for the states.
yeah,
That was
that's your,
only now the guilty verdict is only for the state. It doesn't affect him nationally, only in the state of New York. Interesting dynamic.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Okay.
Mhm.
did we really?
They had to put some twist on them. Okay.
Yeah, but pay attention to this moment in time and how you're feeling in this moment, and how this moment affects you because as you get older, there are going to be future generations that want to hear your stories. And even if they don't, you can make them hold your stories. Just thinking about that. Because even writing for history now at Push Black, they're thinking, because the youngers, the writers that I work with, most of them are young, like most of them are under 30. And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, like, yeah, we could do a story on 90s rap. I'm like, yeah, and they're like, yeah, we think about this historical event, and they are so cute. They try to contextualize it, and I'm like, nah, bro, I had it on cassette tape. Let me
Mhm.
at the Source
I
Award,
recorded it from the radio.
right? And it's like, there's something about being able to write and inform history and write and inform cultural experiences from your viewpoint and being in that moment, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I want them just to be able to pay attention to that and to ground themselves and realize that they are a source of stories, history, and power too. Even just bearing witness is a creative act. So
Mm-hmm.
So Leslie, the first thing is talk about this. Welcome to Black. Talk about this so we can understand. And I know that this is
yes, Black Odyssey Media. This is a Black woman run and owned publishing company and media outlet. They have a beautiful array of books, and I am so glad to be signed to them. They are going to be releasing Rootbound. And I am so honored. They were one of the many publishers that made an offer on this on Rootbound. And what I appreciate about them is that I trust them with my Black woman story. And even so far, like the edits that I've been asked to make or the things, they have honored Blackness, they have honored womanhood, they have honored storytelling. And I'm so grateful to be a part of Black Odyssey Media. So that's the official welcome announcement.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank
Congratulations. You got another one, Ron? While you put that other one up,
yeah.
Ron, and Tamara, I know you're about to leave. I just want to make mention that well, I love reading. Sometimes I have a book going, an audible book, and I'm listening to a podcast at the same time. Um, do you think that there's a little comfort in the truth being told in history? I only say that because I've only ever been uncomfortable with our story. Well, let me say, yeah, I'm going to stick to this. I've only been uncomfortable with our story one time. And it was when I read the book The Help. I immediately, when we landed the plane, I just gave it to the first white woman I saw. Like I was done with it. But there's something about a story that tells the truth for me that makes me even it can be super uncomfortable. But I think hearing the history, knowing the history, maybe it's the validation of the history. I'm not sure. Whatever it is, I still feel a bit of comfort no matter how tragic the story is. I just think hearing it and knowing it out loud makes me feel a bit comforted by it. Unlike, and I just kind of want your perspective on it because I know The Help was like fiction, but unlike that book made me feel completely uncomfortable because I felt somewhere in there it wasn't our story. It wasn't the true story.
Yeah. I would say two things to that. First of all, and I know people may not agree with this, but I'm gonna stand on it. I don't think that white writers, have positionality to tell Black stories the way they need to be told. And while I understand that in Hollywood, particularly when it comes to films, there have been white storytellers who have done that, who have told Black stories. Um, how much better could that story have been,
Mm-hmm.
or how much freeing could that story have been had we been told in it? So I'm a big believer in own voices because white people don't have the positionality to do that. That's what made me feel uncomfortable. That's what wasn't good about it because it was a lot. Second thing I'll say is that Dr. Evelyn Parker talks about something called emancipatory hope. And emancipatory hope, so she worked with populations, young populations who were in what we would call situations of despair, whether they were suffering from violence or racism or abuse. And she worked with mixed race women who were searching for their racial identity and who were trying to overcome this whole tragic mulatto uh, trope. Uh, Evelyn Parker talks about four components to emancipatory hope. The first being forgiveness. And within forgiveness, um, to your point, she says that one component of forgiveness is the truth. Everybody owning up to the true story of what happened, and those who are responsible, whether it's for the abuse, maltreatment, the exploitation, owning that, standing by it, and admitting that that is the true thing that happened, and validating that they did that for themselves, not for the people who experienced it, because we don't need validation. We know we experienced it, but validating that they did, in fact, do this thing. So before you can forgive, you have to do it from truth. And once that truth has been told, and everyone understands it's the truth, and nobody's trying to like whitewash it or make it a law that you can't say certain words or read certain books in schools or public spaces, then from that comes fellowship. And that's where we're able to have connection and intimacy with one another based on that truth that we experienced in forgiveness. So that maybe if a white woman does write a story about black maids and domestic help, then maybe she does so from the space of a woman who had that in her house and who
Mm-hmm.
may experience that, rather than creating these tropes of perfect black characters or disabled black character, or and going for the easiest and lowest common denominator in formulaic writing. The third one that she talks about, so where there's forgiveness, there's fellowship, there's fortitude. Fortitude is knowing that even when attacks are made against your physical or spiritual or emotional or mental character, that you don't have to absorb them and accept them for what they say. I guess if I were going to summarize it, it's like it's not what they call you, it's what you answer to, as some of the old used to say. And then the final component of that would be freedom. And it's freedom in a way that you know who you are, you're grounded in your identity, and you have the agency to be able to live out that identity without retribution, without being retaliated against, without fear of white violence being enacted against you, or sexual violence being enacted against you, or gender based violence. But those four components um, are what it takes for us to have that emancipatory hope. And it's a very long winded answer for me to say that I think what you were feeling were inklings of an emancipatory hope that freed you from being able to hold that story in a way that let you know that it's okay for me not to be okay with this story. And I hope that there can actually be a telling and a coming to Jesus moment where we face these things with one another in real time outside of the fiction world. So that's what I would say.
That's good. That's good stuff. That puts a little bit of perspective on it. It actually has bothered me, and I'm like, why don't I like this? But thank you, thank you. Okay.
No, I agree with you, Fawn. I mean, I know movies that are have black faces in it, and even a black director, and it doesn't speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Hollywood has had his hand heavily in it, whether it was on the writing or the editing, or whatever part was played in it. It's sort of like I know the difference between a Spike Lee movie and a Tyler Perry movie. I mean, it's black actors, it's
Right.
black faces, but other movies, some of those movies don't speak to me. I feel like it's not really written for me. That it
Mm-hmm.
has black faces and black writers, and they're really talking to white folks,
Right.
or they're talking to other people, other coming on, and I don't really. I'm at the point I don't have any expectation of some other folks telling our stories. That's why we need to tell our stories, and that's why I'm so grateful to Dr. Grover and other truth. I call them truth tellers and storytellers, because even if they're made up characters, sometimes you can get so much more truth through made up characters. If
Mm-hmm.
once you talk about the intentionality of saying I'm making these stories and I'm talking to my people, and we have to be comfortable with that. I think as creative people, and that's what Iron Metropolis is about. We're dedicated to a little self plug there, but not being ashamed of telling our own stories, or selling out to the machine because we want to be embraced by Hollywood.
Right.
So
That's
Leslie,
right.
this is tell us a little bit about this.
Yes, this is the formal announcement in Publishers Marketplace where other publishers go to see like who's been offered a deal, what writers are up and coming, what what's your competition signing, what are you doing? And this was Black Odysseys Media saying, hey, this is what we signed, this is who we're doing, and it has like my signing date and
Your
All
yeah.
signing
right.
date was my birthday, by the way. That's my birthday.
Oh,
Your
awesome.
signing date.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
It's a good omen.
That's right. I'm telling you. We're destined to work together. I just know it. I don't
I
know when now, but
we
I know it's going to happen.
seriously, we have got to do something.
I know it's going to happen. I already know. I saw
Absolutely,
that April 24th. I said, oh, there it is.
there it is.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to get to what people really, the information people really about. One of the major things about how could they get a part of this. So let me just pull that one up. So here is the actual advertisement for what you have going on June 8th.
Yes, and do not let costs be prohibitive because there are scholarships available. And if you go to Literary Liberation and you just let them know, you can let them know. Look, I want to attend, but I don't know that price. Y'all doing a lot, and they will help you out. There are
But
really
listen,
amazing.
listen. I hear what you're saying. But let me just say this. Uh, I know they might need a scholarship, but they might not need a scholarship because I'm thinking about, you know, this is an opportunity to really do something that's outside of what I hear people always talk about. Hey, I want to do something that's so amazing, or outside of my wheelhouse, and what have you. And I think this is a perfect example of something. And then again, that's not that right there is not a special. I mean, I'm not saying because I'm financially wealthy or anything. I'm just saying that there are some opportunities in life that we get an opportunity to do that doesn't always come about. And I think this seems like one of those experiences where you'll be able to really do some extraordinary. And again, it is listen only enough space for 10 people, so you know how
Mm,
inclusive this is going to be.
Oh, I
This is
didn't
an inclusive.
realize that.
yeah.
I didn't realize that. Only enough space for 10 people.
Hmm.
Right. It's
Oh,
not going to
wow.
be this big thing where a whole bunch of people
Right.
are in a room and you like have somebody over the or on the and like I hate the what I hate more than in webinar style where you
Hmm.
don't even get to talk and you're just listening in and what have you. Because I know people paying $200 to go to a webinar to sit there and
Hmm.
listen to somebody tell them how they can make $1 million next week. And they're not
Right.
going to make $1 million next week. They're not going to do anything. They're actually just going to send that person that money. And they're
Hmm.
not going to, I mean, maybe they get something out of it, but I feel like you're not really getting anything. I think this is something that, especially how you described it, allows us to, really deep inside of ourselves and express
Hmm.
some things that may even then at this point when they do these revolutionary letters, make them
Hmm.
say, "Hey, I need to go get this worked out with
Hmm.
the professional."
Hmm.
Next thing they know,
Hmm.
they call in my number and call in some other black therapist
Hmm.
Yeah.
to. I would just say a black therapist. If you got black issues, you probably need to see a therapist, and make sure they black. Let me just say that make sure they're a black therapist, not just a color
Hmm.
therapist,
Yeah.
Right.
because then you
And,
might be going.
and, and can I make one more comment before I go? Because I really have to go. I just want to say that it's imperative. We don't really have the option not to support Black independent creative people. But we have money. You know, when we need things, when we want certain things, when people want to hang out and do other things, we find money. All right. And this is so important. I mean, I tell people stop asking for discounts, stop asking for free stuff, pay for it. We need to go to these kind of seminars where you're going to get focused and intense and you're going to get your head right. I think we need to be focused on being the first to sign up for things, the first to buy products, and the first to promote these ideas. And I can't applaud you enough, brother, for having this incredible, powerful sister on this program, making people aware that this event is taking place. And 125 is a pittance compared to what you get out of other places that give you literally nothing but mind poison. You're going to get edified. You've already been edified here with this broadcast and being introduced to this person. I really implore people who care about creative writing and care about our stories to be a part of this. She should have to be, offering any kind of discounts. We should leave tips, for people like this who've done the work. Like say, hey, okay, it's 125. Can I pay another 25 or whatever, or maybe pay for someone else who may not be able to afford this? But we need to really put the pressure on our people to recognize what is important in our community to support and stop asking for discounts, stop asking for free stuff, because we don't do that when we go to other
Hey,
people's
well, we
programs.
don't listen. Time out. They don't go and ask Gucci for no discount. They don't ask
Exactly,
Louis Vuitton for no
exactly,
discount. They don't. They
exactly,
don't even ask,
exactly.
listen. Let me tell you what. The people don't even ask. You know, Michael Jordan for no discount. Well, they getting
You
discount
know what
anyway.
Exactly. We got to understand where we have to put our money and where we have to put and what we have to invest in, what we have to look at in terms of if we want to see things that are different, things that really make us feel beautiful again. The reasons why we don't see these things is because, we're supporting other people who've totally sold us out. People now who want us to be better and stronger and to love ourselves and nurture us. We want a discount. Get out of here. I mean, this is a cup of coffee for a month. Give up that coffee that's not probably not healthy for you for a month if it's that tight. And it's honestly it's really not that tight. We live in a world where, like I'm telling you, $100 is like $10. So put the 125 down or whatever it is, and really support this sister and support her work and others like her. I say independent people who are doing the right thing. I'm not just saying any independent people. There's a lot of people who are independent and they're putting out trash, but this is of immense value. I think to us today and for us tomorrow.
Thank y'all so much. And
Yeah.
you know,
Let me ask
mhm.
you one more question before you go into that. How do they get? I mean, where do they need to go? Can they go to your website, or how do they?
They go to literate. Let me make sure I get it right. They go to literary liberation substack.com. And when you get there, you're going to see a listing of all the classes and workshops. And it's great. And then everything comes with the story. Like you're able to read the story, the inspiration for it. You're able to register. You're able to see every single thing that you're going to learn about the workshop. You're even able to share it with other people.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm. Let me see. I think I can put it in the.
Yeah, I mean, if you might, can you does this give you an opportunity to share? Does it tell you share on your bottom there, like you can share screen?
Oh yeah, I have present. I was gonna put it in. I put in the
Okay, so let me
chat.
stop. Let me stop. Let me stop, and then go ahead and see if it'll allow you to go ahead and come in there.
Yeah. So let me see. Oh Lord, what have I done? I may have ruined something. Let's see. Um, I'm not sure if it's recording my screen or not. Let's see. So this, I don't know if
There you
you all
go.
can see the screen. So
Let me add it to the stage, and there you go.
yeah, this is Literary Liberation. This is their Substack. And as you see with Substack, there are a plethora of every single thing of writing clubs, of workshops. And then you come to the workshop here, you can click on it, and then it tells you
So the
day
key, the key thing they need to know is to go to literacy liberation.
literaryliberation.substack.com. Yep, and it's gonna put you right here. And
So for my people who don't know Substack and all that, you know what to do. Go to Google, put in Larry Liberation, and then you will go. And I know the people say, I ain't get that. I didn't get that. I didn't get that. I don't even know what that is. Well, you know how to Google. Just like you Google up the new Gucci belt that just came out. Nothing wrong with getting a Gucci belt, but sometimes we act like we don't know how to do the same thing for the Baleariagos tennis shoes that we're gonna get, and so just go and look up literary liberation. And I'm on Google right now, looking at it, and it's taking me right to that, right to be able to find it. Just a little bit of searching, and if you're interested in doing that, you should do that, and have a good time doing so, and be among those 10 people who to experience what I experience every time I go around, my good sister. Nothing but good vibes and always the enlightenment of what we need in life. So um, let me get us back here. So just now it's just
yes,
you put it in the chat. Okay, I didn't see that. Let me get this, and then I'm gonna share this, and then I'm gonna close us out. So Mia, uh, put this in a banner really quick.
yes. Well, while you all are doing that, I just want to thank you all for having me. You know, it's always a pleasure to come and speak with y'all, to just be among y'all, feel like, I'm in community with you all. And, Ron, we've been knowing each other 1,000 years, and may we continue to know each other 1,000 more. And I just appreciate you all so much.
So as you see, again, the information how you can get there is down at the bottom. Down at the bottom. Again, I want to thank our guest tonight, Dr. Leslie T. Grover, and best of luck in the program and everything that you do, because you do so many. You do, as I said before, and people know this season, this year, whatever we call this is, it will be focused on everyday people doing extraordinary things. And you are a perfect model of our everyday people doing extraordinary things. I am on a campaign to let everyone know that celebrity is not important. We make celebrity important, but we don't get anything from celebrity, and we bypass ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things that really can change things in our life. So I'm so glad to have you twice on the show. Pretty sure I'll have you again later on in the year. But again, thank you again, Leslie, for being here. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. I guess I don't know if Tanika was she might be doing union stuff. They might be doing whatever they're doing down in Miami. Want to thank again Sisters for Sisters, all the people that was there tonight for Sisters for Sisters. Thank you guys for watching and supporting Therapy on by Sisters for Sisters. And we would definitely see you here. I don't know. We might take a little break next week. I don't know. I might think about it. I might need some rest. I might the team might need some rest. Everybody might just need, because it's getting close to the end of school year, and most of us are involved in schools in that way, and that's just a time to kind of just take a chill pill. But if not, you'll come back to the same station, same time. But Therapy Thursday, again, uh, peace, love, and happiness to everybody, and see you next week on Therapy Thursday. Good night.